Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the YouTube. Welcome back to the Road to Stage series. I have just woken up. It is 5 to 7 in the morning. I've already done a fasted round of posing and I'm about to start my day. So first thing I'm going to do is get a litre of water down me, get my creatine in, and then I'm just going to start cooking meal one. It's a high day today, so I've got 700 carbs and 4,000 calories, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, it's time to get the day started, and I'm kind of just going to check in here and there, and touch on certain topics, certain subjects, and we'll go from there. Right, here we are with our coffees. I'm actually watching the NBA, so if you didn't know, I'm quite a big NBA fan, so I like to catch up with the highlights of the games in the morning. It's the playoffs at the minute, so it's a bit more exciting. So here we are with our coffees, and then gonna eat meal one. Right, meal one has been consumed, as you saw. It was 300 grams of yogurt, 30 grams of granola, 200 grams of berries. This way. What else? 15 grams of coconut almond butter and seven rice cakes. It's normally 200 grams of yogurt and 10 grams of whey, but I've run out of whey, so just 300 grams of yogurt. It's less on the protein side of things today. One, because protein is very satiating, and when I'm taking in 4,000 calories, I need to kind of pull that down a little bit. And also it just allows a little bit more room for carbs. Because if I'm pulling 40 grams of protein from my daily intake, that's 160 calories worth of carbs that I can afford to put in without pushing myself too far. So yeah, that's done. We're on our morning walk now. The time is, what's the time now?
8 a.m.
8 a.m. So we were meant to set out for this walk at 7:30, so we're a little bit behind schedule, but it's not the end of the world. I did get my check-in back from Finn, which we watched, so no changes there. And yeah, it's all good in the hood. It's not an amazing morning this morning, but it's kind of overcast and it's dry, so that's the main thing. It's not raining, so I'll probably catch you at meal two. So as you can see, we are back in the kitchen. It is time to cook pre-workout meal. So pre-workout meal today is going to be chicken breast, rice, potentially 2 packets of rice, because I've got about 200 grams of carbs to use. So it's either going to be 2 packets of rice and some fruit, or it's going to be 1 packet of rice and 2 bagels. I haven't decided yet, but we'll see. So I'm going to time lapse this, so you'll see me chefing up, and then I'll eat that, and then we'll drive to the gym. As I'm driving to the gym, I'm going to be answering some of the questions that were left in my question box that I put up yesterday. So that will be kind of like a Q&A as I drive to the gym. And then it'll be time for pull. So let's get it cracking. As you can see, we have part one of the pre-meal here, which is 3 pots of rice. So that's about 150 grams of carbs, 147 I think it is, from rice. We've got 125 grams of chicken breast, as opposed to the usual 175 grams. Part two of this is going to be a bagel with low sugar jam, 100 grams of berries, and 20 grams of, sounded Irish then, 20 grams of dark chocolate. So we're going to get this down me, and then we're going to make our way to the gym. Part one of pre has been eaten. As you can see, we've got part two here. Lovely stuff. About to tuck in, and I will see you in the car. As you can see, we are in the car on the way to the gym now. So I'm going to do my little Q&A. So the first question that was put on the question box, I'm going to put it here on the screen somewhere, like a screenshot of the question. But the first question was macros, well, if it fits your macros versus a meal plan, why you would do each one, which one's better. So I'm going to talk about it. Macros is, well, if it fits your macros, is essentially you get given a certain amount of carbs, certain amount of protein, a certain amount of fats, which will equal a daily amount of calories, whether it be training day, non-training day. So you don't have to eat specific foods for each meal. You just need to make sure that by the end of the day, you have hit those targets. So let's say, for example, it's 220 protein, 350 carb, and 60 fat. It doesn't matter what food sources you choose as long as you hit those macros. So times where that can be beneficial for people is, one, people that aren't planning on like being bodybuilders or doing a bodybuilding prep. It gives it a little bit more variety, gives you a bit more flexibility in terms of potentially enjoying different foods. However, on the flip side of that, if you're constantly changing the foods you're taking in, your body is going to respond differently to all the different foods you're taking in. You know, whether it's, you know, complex carbs or simple carbs, or you're taking in saturated fats, unsaturated fats, and just like the types of protein sources you're getting in, these can affect things like absorption, digestion, like how much water you're holding on to. There's so many like fluctuations that can happen. Even if you're taking in the same amount of macros every day, but it's different food, it can cause fluctuations to happen, and it can cause digestive issues and stuff like that. Having said that, if you're not someone who has aspirations within bodybuilding, if it fits your macros is a perfectly okay way to go about a diet phase or a bulking phase. It's just not the most optimal way of doing things. On the flip side, if we look at a meal plan, the benefits of a meal plan are, in my opinion, it's easier because it takes away the thought process of, what am I going to eat today? You know exactly what you need to eat. You know exactly how much you need to weigh out, and it's predictable. You know, if you're eating the same foods every day, you know, okay, I get along with these foods. I know how they digest. I know how they taste. I know how to cook them. I know how to store them, like whether it's in the fridge or whatever in Tupperware. It makes everything very repeatable, and that makes things very efficient. And when things are repeatable and efficient, it's so much easier to collect data off of that. In terms of what's better, I think if your aspirations are bodybuilding and optimizing performance within your training and within your nutrition, I would say a meal plan is the way forward. However, if you are someone that's a little bit more relaxed and wants a little bit more variety, then if it fits your macros is a perfectly fine option. Question number 2 is, what's your why? So basically what this question means is like, what drives you to do bodybuilding? What drives you to train? What drives you to coach? And I think, to be honest, if we go back to why I started training, I've always been in sport. I've always been competitive from a young age. And it was kind of like a natural progression. So I kind of got into the gym because I wanted to be better at sport. And I feel like this is the same story for a lot of people that do bodybuilding. I got into the gym because I wanted to be stronger. I wanted to be more athletic. And then you kind of just fall in love with the training. And then from there, you're just addicted. And that's pretty much what happened with me. I think my why for bodybuilding is kind of just to prove to myself of what I'm capable of and what's possible, especially as a natural athlete as well. Like, a lot of people shit on natural bodybuilding, and I kind of like to be natural, and I kind of like to kind of push the boundaries and kind of see what is possible within myself and kind of just fulfill the potential that is set out there. Like, what a shame it is to have a young body, like to be my age, to be a young man. What a shame it is to not see what it's capable of, whether it be bodybuilding, whether it be long distance running. Like, why wouldn't you test that potential? Like, you're never going to be this young again. So proving to myself in terms of a prep that I can do it, but also just seeing what I'm capable of and kind of like testing myself in a sense, I would say is kind of my why. as to why I train and why I'm doing this prep. Question 3 is, how do you deal with stressful situations in prep? And to be honest, the way I would answer this is that just because you're in a prep, it shouldn't change how you handle a stressful situation. I think managing stress is something that I've got a lot better with over the last couple of years. But I think a good way of dealing with stress is actually just changing your perspective and your mindset on what stress actually is. Like they say, throughout life, stressful situations don't get less, you just get better at handling them. So every time something comes into your life that is stressful, which is inevitable, it's obviously going to happen, rather than thinking of, oh, fucking hell, this sucks, this is shit, this is the end of the world, think of it, okay, this is a test, this is a chance for me to get better at handling stress. So if, for example, I get thrown in a stressful situation my way, yeah, okay, I might get a bit wound up at the time, but it's important to kind of take a step back from the situation, look at it and think, okay, this is stressful, but this is a chance for me to learn how to handle these situations better. And I think if you look at it like that, with kind of like a progressive mindset, it kind of encourages you to handle it better, and it also encourages you to see the situation in a more positive light. And obviously, if you see things in a more positive light, it's going to be easier to handle. Question number 4 is, what's better, 3 times a week training frequency with more rest, or 5 times a week frequency with less rest but more frequency for muscle growth? If we want to look at the science, 5 times a week is more optimal for muscle growth. Reason being, you just have more opportunities to cause adaptations. Having said that, that's only possible if your volume within the sessions is thought out smartly. So you're not going to be able to maintain the same amount of volume over 5 times per week as you would in a 3 times per week. So when training 5 times per week, you need to be smarter about about how much volume you're using per session and per muscle group, as you need to allow the muscles time to recover before the next time you hit them. So it's about kind of figuring out what volume works for you and how much volume each muscle group can actually handle, figuring that out and then utilizing that to the best of your ability. If we're at 5 times per week frequency, let's say I train my legs in a 5 times per week split. Let's say I hit my legs twice a week, but in a 3 times per week split, I only hit my legs once. So let's say the 5 times per week split would be a push-pull legs upper lower, and the 3 times per week would be push-pull legs. Over a month, I'm hitting my legs 8 times compared to 4 times. Okay, that's literally, it's double, and if I have double the amount of opportunities to progress my lifts than the other person, I have double the opportunities to cause adaptations, I have double the opportunities to stimulate muscle growth, I'm going to have bigger legs than the other person. Obviously, genetics aside, I will have better and bigger legs and stronger legs than the other person. Having said that, this is only going to work if your volume and your programming is on point. If you're putting too much volume into sessions and you're absolutely battering yourself, so you're not actually recovering by the time it comes to the second time you hit that muscle group, you're not going to be able to progress in those sessions, you're not going to be able to get stronger, and so those adaptations aren't going to occur, and you're probably just going to end up doing more damage than you are good to the muscle group and to your body. So 5 times per week is better as long as you're programming it properly. 3 times per week still works. Don't get me wrong, this isn't me saying you can't do 3 times per week. I know plenty of people that have made tons of progress using 3 times per week. But if we look at what the science says, 5 times per week is going to be more optimal than 3 times per week. Question number 5. So this is actually kind of a bit of a jokey question because I spoke to the person about this the other day. But the question is there any way you can target your front lat? So like the front of your lat. So he came to me saying that, I do this movement and it trains the front of my lat. But there is no such thing as the front of your lat. I think what he was kind of getting at is that when he does this movement repetitively over a long process, he feels like he develops his lats enough so that he can see them better from the front, okay? Because your lats, are obviously a part of your back, and they kind of span out wide and give that kind of X-frame. So the bigger your lats are, the more you're going to be able to see them from the front. There's no way you can train the front of the lat. Okay, that just isn't a thing. What you can do is train your lats effectively and progress them over time while being in a surplus, and that's going to grow your lats, which is going to make them easier to see from the front. Okay, so there's no way of targeting the front lat, unfortunately. Question number 7, life and business goals. So it's a little bit of a deep one. In terms of life, I'll try and cover this one really quickly. In terms of life goals, I want to be in a position where I've got a family, I've got a dog, I've got a house, and potentially be on the property ladder with other houses as well by the time I'm like 35. That would be ideal. And I also want to be in a place where I can travel 3 to 5 times a year. With the way I want my business to go by the time I'm that age, I'll be able to be quite remote anyway. So I'll be able to work away a lot of the time. But that's kind of where I want my life goals to be, let's say by the time I'm 35. And I just want to be happy. You know, I think doing a lot of soul searching within yourself, kind of figuring out who you are, figuring out what makes you happy, figuring out, you know, like the people you like surrounding yourself with is so important, especially at this age now where I'm 23. I'm kind of transitioning from kind of being like a teenager or like a young adult into a more responsible and more mature adult. It's very important to kind of figure out these things, like what actually means a lot to you, what actually matters to you, and then just really honing in on that. In terms of business, so like business goals can change all the time. What I want right now, in terms of like what I want right now in like 10 years, I want Effective Reps to be a fairly well-known bodybuilding clothing brand that people go to buy oversized garms, like stylish bodybuilding gym wear. That would be amazing. So that's number 1. Number 2, I'd want my online coaching to be in a place where that is my primary source of income, similar to what I just touched on about being remote and being able to travel while still working. So having a client base which is big enough that that can be my primary source of income, and that I'm working with athletes that are high level, and that are like kind of similar wired, similar mindset to me. So that's my online coaching and Effective Reps. Also further down the line, I would also, obviously this is like a dream, like to have my own gym. It's something I've wanted since I was like, literally as soon as I got into the gym, I was like, how cool would it be to have my own space? In lockdown, when I was furloughed, I actually set up a little gym in my garage, and I had all my mates coming into that gym. Like I had time slots, my mates were coming in like booking 2-hour time slots. They were going in training, getting out. So we weren't like messing up the lockdown rules, but I was booking slots. They had like memberships. I set up a gym, and it was just really cool. 1, setting it up, 2, setting it up how I wanted, and 3, seeing like my friends and people come in and train was like just like a really nice feeling for me. And that kind of like reinforced the fact that I do want to like run my own gym with hand-picked pieces of equipment, having it how I want, and just being able to open that to the public. I think that's definitely something I want to do further down the line. And that's all the questions, and it's perfect timing because I have just arrived at the gym. So I'm going to get in and I'm going to film the session, and you're going to see it all. And it's going to be a great fucking session. Great fucking session. Let's go. fantastic session at that. And now it's time to go home and eat my post-workout meal. But yeah, I didn't mic up for any of the session, just because I didn't feel like there was any need to. I didn't really want to / need to speak about any of the movements I was doing. So there'll probably just be like some kind of like non-copyright audio over those clips. Posed after the session, I'll put some photos here most likely, like I did last video. But yeah, very happy with where I'm at. 15 weeks out from the first show, in a great spot. My post-workout shots look very different to my fasted shots, and that's just because where I do my check-in pics is very like a lot of light gets into that room. So I often look quite washed out. So sometimes I take fasted check-in shots and I think, oh, like I don't look that lean, but then I'll take post-workout shots in better lighting and I'm like, okay, I'm right where I need to be. I'm already seeing some lines in my glutes and they're already boxing off, which is pretty cool. But I hold the most fat kind of around my hamstrings and my back. Like the front of my body is pretty lean. Obviously I've still got a lot to come off, but the front of my body, like my delts, arms, midsection is pretty lean, but they're a lot further forward than like my back and my hamstrings. My quads are feathered to a certain degree already. So yeah, I'm very happy where I am right now and I feel great. Like, again, I'm not just saying this to like try and sound like I'm so like stoic, but like I don't feel like I've started a prep yet, which is really good, and which is exactly how it should be if you've set out a proper timeline and you execute how your coach asks, and your coach knows how to set up a proper timeline and a proper pre-prep. So yeah, it's absolutely smooth sailing so far. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.